Ruthie. Welcome to the Creation for Liberation podcast.
Hi, sister. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for including me. I'm really, really excited to get to look at your beautiful face and experience your magic for the next little bit.
Oh, likewise. I'm so giddy. I have butterflies in my belly just because of your love and your gaze and sharing that with
Oh,
me.
thank you.
So let's just jump right in. Ruthie,
Yeah.
please tell me and the people, what is your soul's work?
Oh, man. I feel like I've gotten really clear on my dharma in this life. I have lived through a lot of hell. The first half of my life was incredibly traumatic and incredibly painful. And I really believe that everything I've lived through invited me into remembering who I was. And so much of my conditioning has had to just like die and burn away to get to truer and truer versions of me. And so now I feel like all of it invited me home to become who I actually am, and that's my work, to become more and more of my essence, and then to go out into the world and to mirror what is for all of us, like that every part of us gets to be here, our shadow, the parts of us that we were told are dirty or sinful or bad or evil or whatever. I grew up in Christian culture and was a part of purity culture and was told my body was sinful and deceitful and my heart was deceitful, and then dying in a car accident and lots of other crazy things. But I truly, truly believe that I had to live through all the things that my soul signed up for so that I could eventually wake up and come home and remember and unlearn all the bullshit conditioning that was just handed to us, and mirror our worthiness, our goodness, our wholeness, our divinity, just because we exist.
Mm.
Period. End of story. And to be, as cheesy as this sounds, and a younger version of me would probably wanted to punt me to the freaking moon if I'd heard me say it. But I literally every morning I just say, use me, God. Give me your eyes, give me your words, give me your heart. Like I want to be an instrument of the divine. I want to be an instrument of divine love in the world. And whatever that looks like, I'm here to do, and like my work shifts all the time. So whatever the divine calls me to do so that I can be more of that, then I'm here for it.
Mm. Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask that question, because you, in your presence, in person, in your presence on the World Wide Web, like you are very clear in what your soul's work is at this point, right? And maybe Ruthie in a year will have some other clarity that you've uncovered, and in the future, as we do, as
Yeah.
we evolve. There's something about you saying dying in a car accident and living today to say
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sent chills through my body, because
Mm.
I too was in a car accident 11 years ago now that
Yeah.
changed the trajectory of my life. There's something about these traumatic experiences that change us at a cellular level. But I'd never considered, or I'd never said I died in that car accident, when I absolutely did. There are parts of me that
Oh,
no
yeah.
longer could keep running my life.
Yeah.
And that was the part of me that was okay working for a corporation, that
Yeah.
was okay with being on autopilot in my life, right?
Yeah.
So there's something
Yes.
about that. Would you like to share more about that turning
Yeah.
point, what that
Yeah.
process of death was, and what you have lived into?
Yeah. I love that you said that because I think we all have these like metaphorical deaths constantly and certain things. Like, I don't know why Earth School is set up this way, but it's so often it's like, some of the traumatic shit that literally parts of us do die, and we get to decide how we respond to that. And when I see you, I see the brightest light. I see so much life. And it's like the parts that died were parts that were keeping you from being the bright, like it's so beautiful. It's so true. As cheesy as it sounds, I love the quote. What we thought was the tomb was always the womb. Like, it's just like what we thought was like the death of us is like rebirthing truer. It's the death of the conditioning. It's the death of the masks we wore to try to belong. It's the death of like, all the things I did to get approval and love and worthiness because I didn't know that I already have that because I'm existing. So I love, thank you for that. That is so potent and medicine. It's just medicine. So yeah, backing up to when I was a senior in high school, I was hit by an ambulance on my car door, and he was going like 65 and broke a lot of things. But I broke the top two vertebrae in my neck, lots of organs, things. But then I died. I had a 5% chance to live, 1% chance to walk. Ambulance driver knew how to save me. And I was in the hospital for about a month. But back then, life support, whole thing, back then they used wire and spinal cord fusion. So that was the standard back then. They would take bone from your hip, wrap it with wire to infuse into your bone. And they don't use wire anymore because it can break. And years later, I kind of went back to life as normal. I mean, I wore a big neck brace for like 5 or 6 months my senior year, which was real fun to a 17-year-old girl. Like, I was so horrified, which
Oh,
now, like, who cares? But and graduated, went to college so unwell, like so disassociated. But I grew up sweet Southern Christian girl. You smile, you're pretty, you say sweet things, you're nice, you're polite, you're gentle and kind. And all I wanted was belonging. So I did everything I needed to do to fit in the teeniest, I am 6'1". I fit in the tiniest little box, folded myself up just for belonging because it's what we're hardwired for. So I did whatever I needed to do to get you to love me, to get the world to love me. And that was, what I was taught to be sweet, kind, gentle, pure, pleasant. And so when I would see people, they'd be like, "How are you doing?" I'd be like, "Great." Like permagrin.
oh,
I was so disassociated, massive disordered eating, binging constantly. I was, a good Christian, so I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do drugs, I didn't have sex, but I numbed with food and a screen. Like my earliest memories are in front of a television with junk food, and that's how I learned to stay on the planet, honestly. I don't think I would be here anymore. And years later, a year into my marriage, I got married 10 months after I met my first boyfriend because we felt shame for fucking because we were good Christians. And so we were the sweetest little idiots and totally got married because we were so earnest. It was so earnest. Like we wanted to be good. And about a year into that, I started having debilitating pain, like debilitating, couldn't function. Started going to all these doctors. They'd have me do MRIs would come back and there'd be a spot on my film. They'd say everything around it looks fine, just a magnet interacting with the machine from the magnet, the machine's interacting with the wire, is what
oh,
they'd say. And so finally, I was going to all these doctors. They started me on narcotics because nothing was helping. By the end of it, I was on the highest level of fentanyl, which they give dying cancer patients, morphine, hydrocodone, Ambien, Lunesta, Cymbalta. Name it. I had a bag just filled with so many drugs, and I just lived in a bed. I lived in a bed altogether 7 years, and I was in so much pain because all those years, no doctor asked to see what was under that film until finally one doctor was like, "I can't tell you what's happening until I see what's under that." And they realized that one of the wires had broken and pierced my brainstem.
oh.
And I'm the only human that's ever had that, and I shouldn't be alive or walking or brain functioning or anything. But that's why I just was living with such intensive, debilitating pain all those years. So it sent me on quite the journey, to say the least. And I was in that bed for 7 years until my husband left, my dad had passed, and a bunch of other crazy, hard things happened. And I had a complete nervous breakdown. Like I've had more than one, but that was like one of the biggest ones. And I stopped sleeping, lost my mind. And I'm grateful, as crazy as that sounds, because it got me out of the bed. I weaned myself off of all the narcotics and I had to start learning how to live again.
Mm. Oh my goodness. So you not only metaphorically died, you physically died,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
um, and went through a lot of pain after that,
Yeah.
living in a bed for 7 years. How long
Yeah.
has it Ruthie, since you have transformed your life in this way, got out of bed, weaned yourself off narcotics, and have been living
Yeah. Yeah.
again?
That was the big breakdown was in 2012. And then the divorce and everything fully happened in 2013. So, 2013, I found myself like single for the first time. I had not had a job in, all those years. I didn't know how I was going to make a living. I was like, do I have to move home? Because I still live with a very, very high level of pain that visits my body each day. And so I just didn't know how I was going to do it, And so it has been quite, quite the journey. And what was interesting as time has gone on for a long time, my full job was telling the pain story. I wrote a book about the pain story, and I found complete identity in this pain story. And I knew that I had an identity with it when I lived in my bed, but I had no idea once I was not living in the bed and learning to live again that I was also still very, very defined by this pain story. And so that has also been such an interesting journey to become like now. Pain story honestly feels really boring to me. Like there's so much more interesting things about me than this silly pain, which I'm grateful for it because it's like always sending me messages, but that story is kind of boring to me. And so now my whole thing is around the invitation of pain because everyone knows pain. Everyone knows trauma. Maybe it's not as insane and extreme and as mine, but you'd be shocked how many times a day I get messages of like, I can relate so much to your story, because on some level, either through, someone having an affair on you, or you're losing your dad, or living with chronic pain, or, a horrible car accident that changes your life, or childhood, whatever it is, like there is a through line that people know loss. They know, I mean, I know what it is to not want to be on this planet. I know what it is to want to die. Um, and and I think I don't know. I feel so, this is going to sound so weird, but I feel so honored to do this work. And it makes so much that I've lived through feel so purposeful when, my work is I sit across from women all day. And I get to say from the depths of my soul with the deepest conviction that, like, this is not the end of your story. This
Mm.
gets to be the moment where, like, this gets to be your phoenix. Like, shit died, absolutely, right? But it's only the parts of us that were never truly us. Until we are not in this body anymore, transformation, healing is possible. And that feels like, because I have lived through so much and I've wanted to die for so long, all I could think about was I prayed for death for so long. I did not want to be on this planet because I was in so much emotional, physical, spiritual pain. And to be where I am today, not to say there's not still pain, like, it's like this is Earth school. We are on the earth, we're going to experience all. I think my soul wanted to have all the experiences and feel all the things, but I can truly say that I really love my life. And it invited me into this truer version of me that gets to be freaky and weird and expressive and silly and goofy and playful and all the things, and for that I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, to hear you say that, I'm grateful at the
Yeah.
end of you sharing what you shared,
Yeah.
um, is striking, and it's something we'll talk more about here in terms of
Yeah.
rewriting your story and
Yeah.
choosing your tomb being your womb, or
Yeah.
letting it be so.
Yeah.
But I heard you say that you wrote a book about your pain story, and
Yeah.
that you were
Mhm.
also in bed for 7 years. There's something about the 7 year cycle, like
Yes.
spiritually, energetically, that's there too. I was in a relationship for 7 years that I eventually
Yep.
left and like had to rebuild. There's something about seven in so many ways.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel like, grieving the deaths that happen
Yeah.
is necessary for
Mhm.
the rebirthing, the rising of
Yes.
the phoenix? Can you share more
Yes.
about
Yes. And I guess I really want to hold both truths, that this is not me like with a little band-aid and I'm just saying I'm so grateful, it's so glory, it's been no joke. It is. I have gotten to grieve so much of what I thought my life was going to look like and who I thought I was, who I thought made me, valuable, important, special. Like I was always the goodest good girl that ever good girled. Like and all parents loved me and everyone wanted me to be friends with their children and children. And I thought I would have so many children. I thought I'd have children of every color. I wanted to adopt so many. I wanted to have biological babies. I wanted to have, you know, and none of that is my reality. And I've gotten to let myself really grieve the parts of me of who I thought I was, the loss that I've experienced. I identify as an Enneagram 4. In one day, I can
Me
feel
too.
every emotion. Oh my God, I love us.
Me too. I've been sitting with that more recently, but okay, go on.
I mean, name the minute how I'm feeling. The emotions that flow through this precious body of mine are wild. It is a roller coaster, and it can go from like bliss out, I don't even know what to do with myself, to literally I am wailing, crying, weeping, just like in the fetal position in like a 30-minute. It's just, but what I'm learning is the more I turn towards whatever, like one of the things that I've been saying lately is, what does it mean to just be with whatever it is, to be with it, whatever feeling comes up, whatever pain comes up, whatever bliss comes up, whatever pleasure comes up, whatever joy comes up, and all of it gets to be here. I don't have to deny those parts of my story and pretend like it wasn't as traumatic and painful, but the more I've let myself feel it and grieve it and own it and bring it into the light, the parts of me that I felt so much shame about, right? It takes the power away a little bit more, and it allows it to transmute so that I'm not a victim of it anymore, right? When I turn towards it and I allow myself to recognize it and allow it and inquire about it and nurture it, that's a Tara Brach Rain thing,
Ooh, yes.
freaking shifts, and it does. And then love gets to drive, and these other parts of us just to get, the amount of little parts and its little high chairs beside me, like, are, all over me. And I'm gonna choose love. I forget all the time, and then I remember and I choose love again. So, it's been a roller coaster, and it's been really freaking profound and really freaking beautiful. And it doesn't mean in one day, I mean, we were talking about this before it started. Like, I live with a very, very high level of pain visiting me each day. I like to say the pain is visiting me instead of saying I am in pain, because I want to give it the ability it can move out if it chooses to. It's been 20 something years, but it still has the ability to move out if it chooses to, right? Right now, it's living and visiting my body. And there are times that it just knocks me over. It is intense. It's high and it's intense.
Mm.
And I also believe that my body, she's not a burden. She's just so wise. She's telling me the truth. Something hurts. And the
Mm.
way I was raised was to deny when something hurts, to ignore it, to avoid it, to pretend, just smile, be pleasant, be sweet, and so me learning how to turn towards the parts of me that have scared me or have been painful or have hurt has been big soul work for me. And I think that's an invitation for all of us, like what does it look like to actually turn towards it and actually love it,
Mm.
to fall in love with it, and to bring bliss and pleasure and joy to it is, I mean, I feel like that's my work.
Yeah. It's this radical acceptance that you're talking about, which is more even further, it's radical love
Yes,
with the parts, with the shameful, painful, excruciating, sad
yes,
parts.
yes,
Um, reminds me of the Buddhist story of the second arrow, where,
yes,
yeah, the first arrow is that pain that's inevitable based on the bodies we're in, the identities we hold,
yes,
our place in the world itself. And the second arrow being the resistance we have to the pain, the judgment of the pain, the shame, of the pain.
Yes.
And what I hear you doing is letting go of that second arrow and like really loving up on like the
Yeah.
side of pain that is the first arrow.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I love that you said that. I learned I learned that, and I share that a lot too, because one of the things that drove most of my life was shame, right? And I remember learning from my favorite teachers who I've gotten to lead a lot of workshops with. Her name's Dr. Hillary McBride, and she's a therapist. And she talks about how we all come here with these 7 core emotions. Every human that comes on this planet has 7 core emotions. And I just remember when I heard the list, 5 of them weren't allowed in my house: anger, um, disgust, sexual excitement or desire.
mm.
Um, I know joy gets to be there. Hold on, let me look at the other ones are because I don't want to forget. Um,
And
let's
so
see.
many of those emotions are like inspirations for our creative energy too. Like
Exactly.
anger.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Fear, anger, sadness, disgust, joy, excitement, and desire slash sexual excitement. But in my house, I was only allowed to feel joy and excitement. Everything else was not allowed. But those feelings don't go away because we're not allowed to feel them. So then we create these inhibitory emotions: shame, um, shame. What is the other two? Oh my gosh, my sweet little brain. Anxiety is another
Mm-hmm.
one, and guilt. And we create those to keep us from feeling the core emotions because we were taught that they were bad. But then those feel really bad. And so then we create our defenses so that we don't have to feel the inhibitory emotions. So that's when we start numbing. Screens, food, drugs, sex, any of these things we go to not feel those core emotions. And so, like, everything is allowing us, I think the whole freaking reason is to like get back to feeling those core emotions, to allow ourselves. And Hillary always talks about how when we feel anxiety, when we feel shame, it's just a check engine light. It's never actually the real feeling. There's something underneath that wants to lift the hood to be felt because these inhibitory emotions are coming in to block the core ones.
There's something so potent about looking at shame and anxiety and guilt as inhibitory emotions
Yes.
or inhibitor emotions. Because I notice when I'm feeling, especially post-pandemic, but it's always been there, when I'm noticing like social anxiety come up,
Yes.
it's a check engine light for me that's saying, oh, are you trying to be like everybody else? Are you trying to go in and match the energy? Or are you trying to, lay low and not stick out as a 4 Enneagram 2, which is
Yeah.
also known as an individualist or
Right.
romantic or other things? Like,
Right.
I just inevitably cannot. I just
Yes.
cannot
It's like
blend
not
in.
possible.
It's not. Yeah, you're 6'1", I'm 5'11". Like we're not meant to stick.
We're not going to blend in.
Right, we're not going to blend it. It's just inevitable. Like we're just not in vessels that allow for that or in lives that allow for that. So I do notice social anxiety comes up deep when I'm trying to be like everyone else. So to know that my anxiety is an indication that I'm inhibiting
Yes.
something myself is really powerful. And I hope people who are hearing this are looking at their own shame or their own anxiety and their own guilt and asking the question, what is that indicating that I'm inhibiting? What am I repressing or suppressing there?
Yes. And the thing that's been the most helpful, and my partner and I use this so much because it's just a thing, like everyone feels it at times. And so let's say he is, or I'm feeling anxiety. I'm like, okay, well, where do you feel it in your body? Is there a sensation? Is there a color? Is there a shape? Is there a temperature? Does it have a size? Like, what if we like invited it? We didn't shame ourselves for feeling it. Like, you get to be here. Let me feel you. And then I'll ask it. Once I get there, I'll say, is there an emotion underneath you? And my body tells me something. It always does. Now our minds are going to say that's not real, da, 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 which is very human and totally fine. And the more you practice it, the more you become more comfortable and trusting because our bodies are just talking to us constantly. For every one message my brain has for my body has 10 messages for my brain. But we just learned how to override it so young. We were handed this, right? We were handed this. We were told so many stories about our body. Like the only reason I ever heard a body talked about in my house growing up is if it's skinny or pretty. Or
Mm,
it's the only reason bodies were spoken of ever.
wow. Yeah.
And so learning how to reclaim and honor her as so good and giving her a pronoun, like she gets to be here. I don't know. I don't want to call my body an it. She is a person that is talking to me constantly and is the wisest, most profound truth teller. My sweet little brain, bless her, gets to be here, lies all the time. And this time makes up some bullshit, lack
Oof.
stories like nobody's business. My body doesn't lie to me.
Mm,
My brain will put me in the future and the past, ruminating about the things. When I am in my body, I am here.
mhm.
She is so wise.
Yeah. It's such a masterful practice to allow our minds to be servants of our bodies, like to use the power of our brains to be in service to our body wisdom.
Yes.
And
And it's a reclamation, because I know my body is a white, straight body. But it's there's a hidden disabled part of my body. You can't look at me. Besides, you can see all my scars, but you don't look at me and think anything other than a very able, straight white body. And so, I think about it a lot because I don't know at all what it is to be in a brown body. I have no comprehension, but from my friends, from what I hear, there's a lot of reasons people have not felt safe to be in their bodies,
yeah.
right? And so as I've been doing this work, I realized for myself, which I do believe is for all of us, for me to get back in my body, the place of the scene of the crime where so much trauma has lived. So, I mean, I was already disassociated before I had pain, but then once pain moved in, I was like, well, I will never go back there. Like, fuck you. I thought my body hated me. I thought, why would I be here? There's so much pain. I'm going to do whatever I can to get the fuck out of here, and to disassociate, to leave, to numb, to avoid, because it felt so traumatizing. But I really believe when done in safety, like, no one gets to tell someone to feel safe. Like, we get to reclaim that. And for me, being in nature has helped me reclaim safety in my body. Slowing down, learning nervous system practices, anything to like slowly begin building trust and safety with my body. And I really believe it's like the purest act of resistance on the fucking planet to come back into our bodies. Because when I'm in my body and I truly am connected to the essence of my body, I don't believe that there can be an other. I believe that my body is good. I believe everybody is good. When I am fully embodied, I know there's no other. I am not separate from this beautiful tree, this precious dog at my feet, the mangy cat that I sit with every day and feed, who literally is like hisses, and I'm in love with this cat. Because we are one. I am not separate from these animals and these trees and people. And I just am like, I believe embodiment would change the world. Like, do you think these men in government are
Mm.
embodied? You
Yeah.
can't hate an other and be in love in your body. I just don't believe it's possible.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in my body and I watch it constantly, like that shit dissolves.
Yeah, for sure. I feel that so hard. Like, I know too, my body knows. My body's like resonating
Yes.
with what you're saying. Like, I'm getting
Yeah.
chills and I'm feeling excitement. And
Yeah.
yeah, when I'm in my body, I'm in play, I'm in movement, I'm in contact, I'm
Yeah.
recognizing that I'm breathing the same air that the person in front of me is breathing,
Yes.
and I want to touch and interact. And um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful practice. And
Yes.
it's so hard. And both and the world that we live in, it's
And
so challenging to let us be in our bodies. Because also when we're in our bodies, we are primal and wild and pleasureful and in the pain and in in the experience of the body that the body's having in any moment, which is
Yes.
not always quote unquote appropriate or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So we,
Right.
depending on our bodies and identities and in the system we're in, come up against the barriers. But
Yes.
I also heard you say earlier that, yeah, the pain story is boring. It's real. It's very true for people, and it's boring. And
Yeah.
so are our fears. Our fears are also boring. We all share the same fears in essence.
Yeah.
They have content variations, but in essence, fear is fear of the human. What are you interested in? What goes beyond the pain story? I think you've already
Oh my,
been in it, but I want to just like really give it its time.
my gosh, so much. I mean, for me, like obviously humans interest me. Like I sit across mostly women, but I sit across from women day in, day out. That is my work. And I get to like see these profound souls that are incarnated in these beautiful bodies of all different colors, shapes, sizes, and I'm just fascinated. I am, and I see how unique each individual is, and everyone's saying the same things. Like when you peel back enough layers, when you peel back like same core, I don't believe I'm worthy is usually just if you peel back enough, there's an unworthiness baseline that is, it's a patriarchal thing that we've literally been handed. And so my passion is like reclaiming, like coming back home, reclaiming your fucking divinity because you exist. That brings me watching humans remember and break through and unlearn the conditioning and remember who they truly are. Just got the chills. It just brings me bliss on a level I can't even, because I know what it's done for me and I know it's for everyone. I know this isn't mine. This is our birthright. That thrills me. I am also obsessed with studying like sacred sexuality. I am obsessed with it. Growing up, purity culture, learning to reclaim my pleasure and how sex is the purest form of creation. And of course, the patriarchal system wants to tell us it's dirty and sinful and bad, especially in women, because a fully embodied woman owning her power is the greatest threat, not because we would diminish or anyone, but like is a threat to the patriarchal system. Of course, they're going to tell us our moon cycles are gross and dirty and something to be ashamed of. Are you kidding me? Like it's our superpower. It's our superpower. So sacred sexuality is one of my favorite things. I also feel so passionate in teaching about money consciousness because I'm like, I want to help get as much money as humanly possible in conscious people's hands, especially conscious women's hands, if I'm being honest, because everyone wins. The planet wins. What we choose to spend our money on, everyone rises. Like I'm like, if that needs to be my mission on this life is to help conscious women make so much fucking money, because it's all just the power we give it. If we choose to let this money be, I know we talked about this a little at Kripalu, like I took every penny that comes into my bank account. I'm like, oh my gosh, you are coming into the Ruthie Lindsey retreat. I am going to honor you and bless you and give you so much love because I want that one. I want to bless me. I want to bless my partner. I want to bless our animals and that we're stewarding and the home that we're stewarding and the land that we're stewarding. And I want that money that's been at the Ruthie Lindsey retreat when it goes out to bless as many humans as possible. When I am checking out of the grocery store, I'm like, oh, I'm so honored that I get to have this exchange with you and I get to eat these incredible organic vegetables and
Mhm.
bless these farmers and honor their work and honor this cash register's work. And now that energy that I chose to make the most loving, juicy, you know, energy is now going to bless. That's my intent for it to bless everyone it touches when it leaves here. And like, it just holds the power I give it. If I think it's the worst, it's the root of all evil. If it's dirty, if it's sinful, if rich people are gross, I don't think money would want to be with me if I talked about it like that and treat it like
Yeah.
that. And I choose not to give it that power. I choose to give it Ruthie Lindsey freaking love. And
Mm.
so I want that for everyone. I like it's all just a construct. It's make believe. It's freaking, we made it up. And so we get to give it the power that we
Yeah.
want to give it.
Yes, we made it up, so we get to choose what it is for us.
Yes.
Yeah, there's that did really stand out to me when you said it to me first and now, like, but what stood out to me now in hearing you in welcoming money into the Ruthie Lindsey retreat and like sending it out into the world with such beautiful intention and gratitude is that it is in flow, like it's coming and going, and that it's in movement, and that it's not like you're attracting it and compiling it and getting more and more and more, which is so much of what scarcity mindset, poverty mindset, and some aspects of capitalism
Yes.
teach us, right? Like accumulate,
Yes.
accumulate. I'm hearing you talk about how it's like coming and going and coming and
Mhm.
going. It
Yeah.
reminds me of what Lynn Twist talks about in The Soul of Money,
Love
about
that book.
how water is, or excuse me, money is like water, and it could be a carrier for some really toxic
Mhm.
things, especially when it's stagnant.
Yep.
It could be a carrier for cleansing and healing.
Yes.
And I really hear like you infusing your investments, whether it be in groceries or whatever, with that
Yes.
intention of gratitude and well wishes
Yes.
for the world.
Yes. And so much of it that I learned from Kate Northrup, I think I told you about her. I took her relaxed money course, and I'm telling you, it was like the greatest like light bulb shifting because I've been studying money consciousness, but things really shifted after doing this course with her. But her whole thing is like so much of this is nervous system stuff. Because in my home, there was always a lack story with money. Always.
Mm.
Always, always a lack story. And so I inherited, my mom was a child of alcoholics. They would have money and then her dad would start drinking. They lose everything. They lose their house. And so she was constantly in a state of fear. And I inherited her nervous system. And so I was just always waiting and just, you would think that I was going to live like on the streets with no food. That is never the case. I was always provided for, but I lived in that nervous system state because of my mama's experience. And so learning how to work with my nervous system, like I remember when I first started, I would do like little nervous system practices before I even look at my bank account because I would avoid it because I was scared. And so
Mm.
I became so avoidant, I wouldn't even look at it, which again, if I go back to that whole idea if something's visiting me, if because none of the money's mine, let's be clear. I'm stewarding it. I am a steward of this home. I am a steward of this dog. I'm a steward of these birds. I'm a steward of the cat. I feed every neighborhood animal, raccoons, possums, literally. But
Land.
I'm just a steward. I'm a steward of this land. It's God's. Like, I'm so adorable if I really think any of this is mine. Like, we're so cute. Let's be honest. But like going back to the visiting, if money is coming in, if anyone, I cannot wait for you to visit. When you visit, I am going to like have flowers in your room and there's going to be a letter and there's going to be a pillow spray and we're going to have your foods you like. And I treat humans like an honored guest when they come in my home. But let's say when you walked in, I ignored you. I didn't want to look you in the eye. I pretended like you weren't there. I talk really bad about you behind your back and saying something about you's evil, it's dirty, it's deceitful, it's the root of all evil.
Mm.
If it's energy and I'm giving that energy, why would that energy want to spend time with me? Would
Yeah.
you want to come back? you know but the opposite, if I'm like when people sign up for my Substack, it's $6 every time I get a note that another person paid up for. I'm like, oh, thank you. Oh, I get to share the energy with this human, and then also that $6 that wants to be in my energy field right now. Like, what a blessing, what a gift, what an honor. Because I also want to show the universe I'm going to honor and bless these things to build up capacity to honor and bless bigger things. Like, there's some big shit I want to do on this planet, and it also takes money. It takes a good bit of energy and money to honor my body because she lives with a lot of pain visiting her. And so I do a lot to get through a day, do a
Mm.
lot for my body. And so when I honor that, it costs a little bit more to do a 6 month container with me because if I'm going to spend it, I'm going to invest everything in these humans, everything, because I love them so much. I'm going to give them everything. And that comes at a cost. And so I need to be able to take care of myself so that I can show up with so much integrity and love so fully. That all takes money.
Yeah.
None of it's bad. It's beautiful. It's these gorgeous exchanges
Yeah.
that get to happen, but we're just handed all these stories. So that was a very long answer to the things you're asking of what I'm passionate about, but those are
I
a few of
love
them.
it. And each one of those things could be like a whole ass season of a podcast. But I'm really hearing like the participation and the circulation of abundance. And I'm thinking again to those inhibitor emotions of anxiety and shame and guilt, and how there's something about like, it's not uncommon to approach money with shame or anxiety or guilt, and how that in and of itself could be inhibiting like the actual abundance that's available to us if we were participating in the circulation of it, no matter how much we have,
That's
right?
right.
No matter how much we have.
This when I had when I say broke ass broke, broke. And I watched it expand and grow. But, like even used to be anytime I'd pay a bill, I'd feel the like, ooh, like shit kind of feeling, right? And now it becomes like a party at this house. Like my partner and I we're very cheesy, but we're just like, babe, we are abundant. We are abundant. Like, I just invested more in my business than I ever have financially in my life this month. And I felt my little booty pucker. I wanted to crawl inside my booty for a second because I was so scared. And then I just had to do some nervous system practices. And I'm like, this is so loving. And I also get to bless these businesses and these things. And this person I hired to do this, like everyone wins. And I get to trust. Now, those first thoughts come up. But instead of like shaming myself, be like, Ruthie, you've done this work. Why are you still having these feelings? I get to calm myself. I step my little feet on the earth, do some swaying, I do some dancing, and I remind myself of the truest thing of like, oh, wow, I get to do this. And I've been building up muscle all this time with like blessing when I pay a mortgage. Like, oh, I get to be a steward of this home. I get to live in the sweetest little cottage you can even dream up, like, because I'm abundant. So I've been doing these little practices so that when these larger things happen, and I'll even ask my body, I really do, because she's so wise and she tells me the truth. I'll say, body, like, do you want to go like energy, the things that like are in the Ruthie Lindsey retreat, the money, like, do you want to go? Who wants to go spend time at this person's energy? Like, I'll ask my body, I will literally say, is this something you want to invest in? Who wants to go invest in this? And I'll just imagine like all these dollars being like, I want to go. Oh, my turn. I want to go. I've been hanging at the Ruthie Lindsey retreat. It's felt really good. And now I'm ready to go bless someone else, And like, it's like, it gets to be playful. It can be fun. It can be like, it can like turn you on at times. Like, it just gets to be what you choose to let it be.
Yeah.
And I choose to not let it be my hell anymore. It gets to be my heaven.
I also love that you're asking, like you're consulting with your money or with your body. And that's
Yeah.
not just up to your brain to answer all the questions, and that you can put the question onto something else and see what emerges through your
Yes.
deep listening and your attunement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like learning my body's agency of yes and no. I mean, I had no understanding of that as a child. Like you say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. That's what you said in the South. You do not question authority because I said so, right? Like that's what I had to override my wise intuition. I had to override it constantly till so long where you just don't even feel your intuition anymore. I didn't know what was a yes for my body. I said yes to things that were straight up no's constantly because I learned how to override those feelings in my belly. I learned how to override those feelings of intuition that said that person's not safe or that man's not going to treat you right or don't go to that man's house. Like I learned how to override it because of the culture I was in. And so learning how to reclaim my body's knowing, my body's yes, my body's no. And when it says no, I listen.
Mm.
See, even if this is scared that it's going to hurt feeling, my little codependent sits at my table. It sits at my table. It's in this little high chair over here. I love pleasing people. I want everyone to think I'm the best, most wonderful thing. That's just the, my higher self knows it's none of my business. That if my body says no, it's a no. And she's the final say. She's the final say. And do I always live by that? Do I make mistakes? Of course. And then I remember and I come back to the truth and I course correct.
Right. Our bodies don't forget. Like if we say yes instead of no one time, our body will keep giving us the message, maybe a little bit more aggressively sometimes. And we have more opportunities to then say no or yes, whatever that is for our bodies. Yeah.
And that has helped me so much, even in like, who I work with, who I decide to collaborate with, who I align with, because for so long I wouldn't listen. I would just be like, that seems like fun, or that seems flashy, or whatever stories, And now I'm like, unless it feels so full in integrity, it's a no for me. Like, I don't want to align with something that's not fully in integrity for me, or if I don't feel, I'm not judging someone else in their journey, but if it doesn't feel like it's fully in integrity, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for my body. And I think in some ways, this is also, I don't know, odd thing to say, but like all the pain that has visited my body for all these years gave me a leg up in learning how to say yes and no, because like she is my authority. And when something doesn't work for her, it's not worth it to me. Like I used to override her and I would drink, and my body was like, I felt horrible, even if it was like one glass of red wine. And finally, a few years ago, I'm like, why aren't you listening? Like she hates it. She doesn't, this is not me judging anyone else. It's not, listen, but
Speaking
it
for your
was
body.
poison to my body. And like, I just really love that my body almost forced me to start listening in ways that like a lot of able bodies you can override. But then even with able bodies, I see depression, anxiety, jaw pain, back pain, migraine, head, like everybody's body keeps the score. Like none of us are beyond it.
Yeah.
Mine just might have been a little louder, but my friend Jamie Lee Finch always says, she's an embodiment coach. She's like, the loudest bodies are the wisest, most loving bodies. Because they're literally just being like, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention, because I'm your gateway. I am literally your gateway to healing, your gateway to truth, your gateway to knowing. All of that wisdom is here. Like we're not back in the in between. We incarnated in these bodies as our truth tellers in this life, And so, but then in our patriarchal system, we worship the mind. The
Yes.
mind plays a role, but we worship the mind. It's so toxically masculine, but the feminine is the body. When I learned about how the feminine, we connect to God through our bodies, it made so much sense to me, because I tried all these meditations, which are great, but so often I would like reading these men and they're talking about like they couldn't even stand because they were able to override their bodies to go back to source. And I'm like, listen, live your truth. We need both. We need the masculine and we need the feminine. The masculine is like Father Sky, you go back to source. The feminine is here, Mama Earth. We are I am the earth. I am not an extension of the earth. I am the earth. And I'm going to experience God through the earth of my body. And so that's why dance, that's why tea ceremony, that's why sex, all these things I've had the most powerful experiences with the divine has all come through my body.
Yes. Oh, yes. Just gonna take a few breaths into my body.
Yes.
And inviting who's listening to take a few breaths into theirs. So much has been shared already. And there's so much more from you, through you. So I invite everyone who's listening to take a look at the show notes, where we will link all of Ruthie's information there for you to learn more about all that she's doing and moving with. For now, before we close, Ruthie, is there anything you want to leave with or part with?
I think, what's become the biggest work for me, which is I think what I pray and hope is, the legacy I leave behind, the mirroring that's not mine, but ours is whoever's listening, you, me, every part of this gets to be here. Every part of us, the parts that we have hated, shamed, despised, loathed, every part of you gets to be here and gets to be recognized and loved on and communed with and felt and nurtured. And the more I do that and welcome all of my parts to be here, the more whole I am. Like we say we want to be these wholehearted beings. We already are, but we are cutting off parts of us because we're taught that they're not allowed to be here, that they're evil or bad or sinful. And so that reclamation of allowing every part of me, especially the exiled parts, right, is a complete, like that is an act of resistance to the patriarchal system. That is where freedom, like to be your freest, truest, freakiest, weirdest self is a reclamation. It is a holy resistance. It is the most beautiful, powerful gift you can give yourself and you can give this world. And I get to remind myself of that daily because I forget and then I remember again.
I love you, Ruthie.
I love you, sister. Thank you so much. I just love who you are. I love that I get to know you and love you and experience you. It is such an honor. Thank you for doing this and allowing me to be a part of it.
Mwah.
Thank you, everyone. We're so grateful you're here. So honored to share this space with you.